All right, here we are once again doing what we do here, making flights on any random day. Stray Sanchez back at it again with you guys. Here we are today in wonderful Southern California, Los Angeles International Airport, and we are going to be flying this Boeing 748 800 Foxtrot, which is the freight edition, of course, for Atlas Air or Giant Air, if you will be the call sign. So without further ado, let's jump on board. We're on the VATSIM network, and we've got quite a bit of work to do here. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get this bad boy up and started. Oops, messing around there. Let's see here. Okay, we're gonna come over here first of all, and we need to make sure this is in the pounds per se. And let me just check my music volume here just to make sure we're good to go. Don't want to be making you guys deaf or anything like that. I think we should be fine with the music volume where it's at. Okay, anyhow, we want to go ahead and make sure that this is to pounds, and we want to come over here to our ground services and ensure that we have our GPU connected. So we're going to connect the ground power unit, and we're just going to assume all the doors are open up. We're not actually going to do it because the side cargo door opens up super low, but just imagine while we're doing this, the aircraft is going to be getting loaded. So now without further ado, let us come up top now and get the aircraft all initialized. Actually, we can go ahead and turn the music off for now, and let's go ahead and get rid of that for now so we don't have any distractions. Okay, so first thing we're going to do here is open this battery switch. We're going to power the aircraft on. We want to go ahead and hit our left and right utility buses, and of course we have the external power which is available. And now aircraft is becoming alive. We're going to put on the on switch to the nav lights on the outside, and we'll just throw on the logo lights just because we can. We of course need to start aligning the aircraft, which is what we're going to do now. And then of course we need to jump all the way down here to the FMC and go ahead and initialize our position. We are at Los Angeles International Airport, of course, as we stated, and this is our last known coordinates here. Technically you would go into a different page like the Boeing and get information that way, but it's just standard GPS coordinates of the airport going here for the purposes of the simulation. So there you go. Now, in order to do some more admin stuff here, we need to come over here to our fueling, and this flight is going to cause us to have roughly almost 80,000 pounds of fuel, but we're doing 77,000 pounds of fuel here. So we can go ahead and start fueling that, and we'll come back and check on it. All right, you see that's fueling now, and then we can also come over to the payload, and we're going to go 80% full on this flight, which is 233, almost 234,000 pounds. So we'll go ahead and load that setting as well and let that happen so that we can basically start initializing the FMC over here. So we're not going to touch that one yet. While that's happening, let's go down here and just make sure we are on 122.8, which is good, and we'll go ahead and turn this on here just in the chance that somebody's going to communicate here on the ground. That way we've got a good volume there. Alright, so let's come back over here now and check our full weight. We have 233.9 pounds loaded now, and I believe the fuel is all done as well. So the bird is all gassed up. We've got our fuel, and then of course we have our payload, which is on there. So while that's important, we can go ahead and start actually making some changes over here while the aircraft is still initializing. So we're going to go to the initial reference plate page, and we're going to get this in here where it will. And the way you want to make sure everything's put in correctly, check this zero fuel weight, 654,900 pounds. You're going to come back over here to your payload and just verify zero fuel weight, 654.9. So that's all going good there. So that's going to be something good. I'm just going to go ahead and put that we have 10,000 pounds of reserves, even though it's a little more than that. It's no big deal if we just understate that, as long as we know what we actually have. And now we can come over here and put our flight level and our cost index of 50, flight level of 390. And then we can come over here to our thrust limit. We are doing a standard takeoff, climb, and it's 23 degrees Celsius outside. And of course, we're taking off flaps 10 today, which is just fine. And you can see our trims need to be set there. Now I'm going to activate these speeds, but once we select the runway, we'll have to reactivate the speeds for our takeoff. Now let's go ahead. We got about 5 minutes on the left IRS, 6 minutes in the center, and 5 minutes left to go on the right IRS. So with that being said, we're just going to keep rolling here with the checklist. Checklist here. Now you can see here in the middle, this is kind of what we're looking at. So we need oxygen, flight instruments, heading, altimeter, parking brake, and fuel control switches to the cutoff. So in the meantime, let's go ahead. Now what I notice is we're gonna start checking off everything else: flight instruments, heading, and altimeter. Let me go ahead and get that altimeter from FlightAware right now, since we don't have ATIS. The altimeter is 29er88, if you will. So let's just come take a peek right there, and let's fix that up. 29er88. Of course, let's go double check that on the first officer side. Okay, so this one in, you don't have to come back to both sides in order to do it. So so that's pretty much done there. And the heading, we are going to be leaving a heading 251, so let's go ahead and put that on there, even though we'll shortly be flying a heading of 236 for our departure. And actually we'll just let the aircraft with no, normally we would have to get up to a certain altitude on this Orca 2 departure and wait for air traffic control to vector us to one of the points on the departure, because the departure, you basically fly 2 points and then you get to a destination or a fix in which you have to wait for further ATC instructions, and essentially they vector you to the next point. But if there's no ATC, we're just going to let the aircraft do what it needs to do. And we'll just follow the flight director as we manually fly it until we turn on the autopilot. Okay, so we got 4 minutes total time here, so we're just going to assume we did all that, which we did. So parking brake is not set right now, so let's get that set. All right, so we won't be able to set that until we actually get the APU on, so because it won't let us. I guess we don't have any pressure to do that, so we'll skip that part. And then the oxygen test over here is right here. Got to continue to hold that down for a little bit. All right, oxygen test is complete. Like I said, parking brake, flight instruments are not working to our favor right now, but they shortly will. We just got to wait for the rest of this to happen, and then we can go ahead and throw in the flight plan and go from there. And you know what? The amount of fuel we have, the flight plan is going to be very quickly. So let's go ahead and save time. Well, first of all, let's do one thing here. Let's go our better pushback here and get our aircraft. I've already before flown this route with this parking space, so we shouldn't be an issue here. But it's a little glitchy, so let's do pre-plan. And that's what I'm talking about. It's a little glitchy, so every now and then I have to do it twice. I don't know why I did that. I don't know if it's because I actually downloaded a new one and or an updated
ground to cockpit. Plan acknowledged.
Better pushback, and it's still doing the same thing. So whatever. So anyway, without any further ado, let's go ahead and get our alternate power unit on. Put that into the start mode. Let's put our standby power on just in case we lose power. And once the APU comes up, we'll turn on the bleed, and then we'll get our hydraulic pumps on, of course, which then at that point we should be able to set the parking brake. So no big deal there. And right now everything else up top looks good. Just giving it a few more minutes to come up online. In the meantime, let's go ahead and check the VATSIM scope here, if you will. And I don't think we're going to have any ATC on board today. But that's no big deal. We'll just continue to do what we do. Normally with our own, sometimes it's actually easier to do it that way because we actually don't have to worry about any instructions, so that we can kind of have our own flow. But anyway, this is kind of what we're looking at here while we're continuing. So we're here in the LA airspace, and you can see the Denver airspace is quite sparse. So we'll see what we have. I was going to do it on Pilot Edge, but I'm flying later, and I think by the time this flight is done, even though they're online right now, they won't be online then. So I just made a decision to fly on the VATSIM network. So yeah, looks like we're going to be free range chickens here. Let's go outside while this thing is doing its thing, and let's see if we have anybody else at the airport, which LA's usually a pretty busy airport, so we potentially may have. I don't see any yellow tags here just as of yet. Doesn't mean anything. Alright, so a lot of these are just going to be the static aircraft from the scenery, and I don't see a whole lot of activity here. Let's see who else here. I'm just looking on the VATSIM information, or VATastic information. Let's see. So at this point, there are a few other aircrafts here, including ourselves. Actually, there's only one other aircraft here, so that's probably why we don't see it. And it could potentially be a general aviation aircraft. So anyway, it's pretty sparse tonight as far as any ATC or any random traffic, which I don't see. And anyway, let's make sure this person's not around us, of course. You can hear that APU. And yeah, so anyway, it's just looking like it's us, guys. But now we can go ahead and do what we need to do to get out of here. So this is all done. Let's get into the route. And we are looking to make miracles here. We're just going to fly with our general squawk code for the transponder of 2200. Alright, flight number is going to be GTI for Giant 318. Bada bing, bada boom. Let's activate that. We're going to enter that. Now we're going to immediately go into our departure. We will be leaving off of runway 25 left, just because we're in the cargo area, and we're also, which we'll go over, see, there goes the takeoff speeds deleted, but we'll leave that message up there so that we know to go back. Oh, it expired anyway. All right, so direct LAS, and then of course on the rest of the routing, it's going to be Juliet 146 for the actual airway, and then we're doing that to Dicey, Delta Indio Charlie Echo. Let's see. Why did it do that? I don't understand that. So let's get rid of that. Actually, let's get rid of this. Orca LAS, direct LAS, J146 to Dicey. Okay, we'll leave it that way, and we'll be aware of that. And then Bump is the next one, which is actually part of the arrival. And we're arriving into Denver on the Ski 2. And of course, Bump is the actual transition point. And we shouldn't have a problem with that double entry that we just had, because you can see here there's only one Las Vegas VOR. So everything looks good. We don't have any discontinuities, and of course once we get closer, we will most certainly put in our destination information, and you never know, we might have some ATC then. So without further ado, let's reconfirm our speeds here. Our rotate is 163 at flaps 10, which is more than enough. And now let's see if we can get that parking brake set. Once we come up here, let's turn these hydraulic pumps to auto. And let's see, APU gen is available. And of course, let's go ahead and get rid of our chocks and that. And let's also get our better pushback. Open mic on Unicom, we don't need to be on your pre-flight. So I don't think we have an open mic. Let me see if I'm transmitting. Oh yes, we are transmitting. Oh. That's strange that we would be transmitting. Somebody said open mic. We don't need to be on your pre-flight. So let's see here. Close that. There we go. All right. Well, at least we know that's working. So let me just send that person a little message and say sorry about that. All right, so we just sent a little message to him. Sorry about that. Didn't realize the mic was in transmission mode, so he actually saved us because we would have been doing the whole flight transmitting on a frequency that we didn't need to. So anyway, I thought that was funny. They didn't want to be part of our pre-flight. Now, another thing we need to do, because the APU's on, back on track here, is get that bleed on and get all our fuel pumps on. No worries, figured you were talking to a stream or something, but was like, why is he on Unicom doing this? Got you. Yep, didn't mean to, but you see flight sim issues. And so he figured, right, we're recording a video, so I think that's hilarious that happened. Now that the aircraft is on, we're going to go ahead and get the beacon on upper and lower, because we are getting ready to push back. And let's go ahead and initiate that pushback. So we'll start the pushback.
Tow is driving up.
Now we should be able to put that brake up, which you can see the brake is up now. Now, actually, one reason I wasn't able to put the brake up before, if you know in this aircraft, you have to get rid of the chocks, and that's why I wasn't able to put the brake up. Now that I'm thinking about it, so I hope that potentially helps somebody. So I don't think I'm going to be editing too much of this video out. All right, now one thing that we have to take a look at is our information on our departure, just to see what we have to do. But before we forget about it, let's go ahead and put that transponder on. 22, let's see here. Let's get it. Let's see here. Okay, radio is on.
Okay, all doors and hatches are closed. Ready to connect.
I'm curious why we have no power to our transponder. I tell you, if it's not one thing, it's the next. Standby. Transponder. Okay. We don't have a code, though. Let's see. I think I had an issue. To see, this deck has got power. Aha, that's what it is. For whatever reason, we don't have any power down here. So we've got to get the power turned on. Alright, let's get our seat belts to auto. And if we don't have any power in here, I know why.
Tow connected and bypass pin inserted. Release parking brake.
There we go. So what happened is, in the confusion of talking to that guy, we didn't put the rest of our power on. So I was noticing some systems were off, such as that. So, but everything else still looks good. We can go ahead and release that parking brake now. All right, back down to the transponder.
And you may start engines.
Let's clear that out. All right. It's been a while. We're a little rusty, but we're going to make it work here. So we're on Unicom. We know that thing is transmitting. We're on mode C. And just responding to him. All right. So anyhow, transponders on the lower deck looks good. All we need to do was worry about that. So, and look, here's the guy over there that that is actually on VATSIM. So we do have a person here. I'm just responding. And there's definitely more than one aircraft here. Sure. See if we can go outside and take a look at those aircrafts now. As we're getting pushed back, just to be nosy. You can see one we just had land. So, and I don't see anybody else on final, so we'll keep that into consideration. Alright, as we're pushing back, we're going to go ahead and set this. This is a very simple taxi. I'm going to give you guys an idea of how simple it is. So let's go on over to the first officer side for a second. You see here, this is the cargo area, and this is 25 left, 25 right. We're just simply going to come out right here, and we're going to take 25 left. These larger aircraft, and I'll show you guys in the air, these larger aircraft have certain notes that you have to keep into consideration when you're taxiing and departing the field, because they can't taxi on all taxiways, and they cannot take off on all runways. Alright, parking brake is up.
Disconnecting tow. Stand by.
Alright, so let's continue. Oh, one of the other things that we needed to do just really quick, we cannot belabor this. Let's look at the departure really quick. Even though we don't have ATC, we do have to still adhere to some type of organized chaos here. So with that being said, let's just go ahead and look at that so we can set up our MCP correctly. Alright, disconnect, hand signals. Now if we look here, we are leaving from runway 25 left, so we're going to climb heading 251 to 640, then to Hipper or Hyper. We're going to just use the flight director to do all this. Below 3,000, but one of the things we need to look at is flight level 230 is the top of this departure. Now, is that going to apply to us in this flight? No, it is absolutely not.
We'll see you next time and have a safe flight.
It is absolutely not, because we don't have any ATC. But let's hypothetically say that it did apply to us, then we most certainly would be putting in our top altitude of flight level 230. So, just trying to do this the easy way. This is annoying. Let's see. There we go. It's just... because what's going to happen is I'm going to forget to continue to get it bumped all the way up to flight level 390. So we just don't want any problems. All right. There we go. We already have a heading of 251. We're going to set this for basically 250 knots. And everything else is good to go. Let's get our flight directors on. We're going to need that. And of course, we're going to need LNAV and VNAV on, and now we can get the aircraft started. Now that we have this set up, we just wanted to do that because of our checklist. Even though we got this big bad boy sitting here on the ramp, that's okay. We don't have any activity. Okay, let's see. It says passenger signs. We already did that. MCP and heading and all that good stuff. That is done. Takeoff speeds, V speeds have been confirmed. CDU pre-flight is done. The trim, which is right here, we do have some hydraulic pressure on right now, so we can get this to 7.8, which can be verified where we need here based off of our center of gravity. So the trim is going to be all taken care of. The taxi and takeoff briefing is complete. So there you go. Let's go to the next one. And the next one is before taxi, anti-ice, recall, auto brake, flight controls, ground equipment. The auto brakes are already to RTO, as you can see here. Parking brake is set, so let's go ahead and fire up the bird. So let's just make sure we have our bleeds going, which we do. So then we're going to go ahead and start 3 and 4. In order to see the action starting up, you need to come over to the engine panel, and we can see here, excuse me, that we need to wait till this at least gets to 21 to introduce fuel. So let's go ahead and introduce it for 4 and 3. Then you can start to see the rest of the numbers jumping up on the EGT and the N1, as well as fuel flows going to start to happen, and oil temperatures and pressures are going to go up as well. All right, so without that further ado, everything else is looking good. Just to re-go over this, we're straight here. All of the altimeters are both agreeing, as well as the MCP is set up, heading 251, 39,000 feet. We'll be following the flight director, and we can take specific note. All right, so we've got those cutting off, so let's go ahead and start the other side. Let's just make sure we got activity here before we keep going on in our pre-flight here. I'm gonna put that one on legs because we'll review that. Almost to 21. All right. There is 21, so let's go over to the first officer side now and review the instructions. So we're supposed to go direct to Hipper and then vectors to Clipper. So the aircraft is going to do its thing and start turning. Now, normally I would just hand fly this direct and stay on, go to Hipper and then get on heading at 236. However, this aircraft's just going to go ahead and start making its turn automatically, and I'm going to let it. And then because of the fact that we're not on ATC, I'll be able to do that. Now, we can still observe that the engines 1 and 2 are still in a start method, or the start process. They haven't came all the way up yet, but they're getting close. There you can hear the clicks, which also means all of the generators have automatically connected. So now we can go ahead and turn off the APU bleed over here and get our packs on 1, 2, and 3. And of course we can get that APU off and save a little bit of fuel. So this will extinguish, and everything else up top looks good. Let's get a better view really quick of that up top. I just want to make sure our yaw dampers are on and we don't have anything missing, which we don't. And the last thing that we will need to do is to turn on our taxi lights, but we'll get that done here in a second. In the meantime, we're going to do our flight controls check. So that means that you guys now are going to get to see the flight controls here once I get them pulled up. All right. Now we're going to be checking the flight controls here because it's at that stage of the game. So without further ado, let's just come over here and hit our flight controls, little rusty dusty button there. And let's go full back. Full forward. Aileron left. Aileron right. Center. And of course, get my foot on the rudder pedals. Rudder right and rudder left, and we have a full flight controls check, which is complete. So now we can go ahead and we'll get that back on the status page here, and we'll just keep that up. And of course now we need to go ahead and get our flaps 10, so you can see that they have been selected, and here they are in transit right now with the trims at 7.8. So now we can come back over here to the checklist page. Always a little bit of glare. So my studio lights in here. Anyway, so now we're back on the checklist page. So let's just roll right on through that. The recall, flight controls have been checked, ground equipment is clear. And of course, flaps before takeoff is the only thing. So we can just check the recall. So we are all good to go, folks. The plane is where we need it to be in order for us to depart. So let's go ahead without further ado and get our runway turn-off lights on, and of course our taxi lights. Taxi lights are on. Cabin is all ready for departure, of course. And let's go ahead and get that park and brake off. And let's go make miracles happen. See how much fuel we still have on board. We still got 77.2, which is good. I put some extra fuel in here for the simple reason I know I'll burn a lot on the ground. All right, let's go ahead and start our taxi. We'll see you next time, Los Angeles. Los Angeles traffic, Giant 318 leaving the cargo ramp area here, and we'll be taxiing Alpha Foxtrot with immediate departure on 25 left via Orca 2 for Los Angeles traffic. Alright. Now we got to remember that we have to swing this thing. Wider than you normally would. And then, of course, this is our departure runway right here. So, like I said, this is nice because it's a very easy taxi. And then all right. Los Angeles traffic, Giant 318 entering runway 25 left for immediate departure, Orca 2 for Los Angeles traffic. Alright, so we're going to be entering the runway now. So alright, somebody's reporting for Burbank there. Let's get our strobe on as well. I hate the click spots here. Okay, here we go. Verifying that that's open. We're multitasking here. Just going to ease this big bad boy right on out. Let's go ahead and make our turn here. And then, of course, we can see that aircraft down there on the left. Looks like he's a 747 cargo as well. Alright, and the last thing to do, of course, is put on our actual... You can see we're all lined up and official. Right in the middle of the runway. So we already put everything on, and of course, let's hit our clock. Clock is started. Takeoff power set.
80 knots.
80 knots, cross check.
V1. Rotate. V2.
Alright, landing gear are coming up. Alright, we're going to go ahead and kind of get the aircraft where it needs to be, following the wonderful little glide path here. We got to get it down because it's got to catch speed here. So that's one thing you got to know about these big boys. It's going to have to come down first, and then it's going to pick up its speed. Alright, we're going to start, of course, bringing the flaps back. And there we go, we're right on the flight director. So now we can go Alright, now the aircraft is starting that, so Los Angeles traffic, Giant 318 is clear of runway 25 left, climbing Orca 2, Los Angeles traffic. So we'll go ahead and turn these off. And that's one thing I noticed about this aircraft as well, that it likes to do that huge drop in speed. Now it's got us going direct to kegs, but what we're going to do is go direct to Orca so we don't waste a turn here. We'll go ahead and execute that. So now we're going to go ahead and make our right turn. And we're going to incline with our VNAV speed. Flaps are up and clean. So yeah, that's one thing I notice here. This aircraft, you always come off of the deck with it, and it does a good thrust to get to where it needs to be. Then it drops, so you got to drop that nose quite a bit. It's got to pick up that momentum. It can't have such a vertical climb of that. And potentially I could have came down and kept my pitch a little lower for it to pick up speed. But you know, it is what it is. So we train and train and train to get better at what we do. So that's probably something I can do with this, not have such an aggressive. We can rotate to 10 degrees up and then drop it back down to 5 once we clear the threshold and get the gear up. So gears up, RTO is back to off, and we don't have any type of warnings. We'll hit the recall there. Aircraft is on the vertical navigation, and once we get to 10,000, we'll get the landing lights off. Let's go ahead and get a little trusty flyby there. Alright, so it's been quite eventful so far, seeing as how we most certainly started some shenanigans on the VATSIM network by transmitting our pre-flight. Wonder how many other pilots heard that and thought, what else is going on here? Alright guys, we're at 10,000 feet, so we can go ahead and extinguish the landing lights. Aircraft's doing its best job to get to Orca, so we can go ahead and see where that's at visually if we just scale that in. So we definitely gave ourselves a shortcut with no ATC. Now you can see we're direct Orca, and that's also indicating that'll be at the top of the climb there. Alright, you guys don't need to see the controls anymore for now, so let's get those off and out of your way.
Alright, traffic, citations, 350 Victor crossing runway 3315 for pink.
So for whatever reason, I had just realized that you guys weren't getting any audio from the ATC that they've been talking on there, so you probably heard that last transmission. But again, that's okay. Guys didn't miss much anyway, just people communicating amongst ourselves, departing the runway there, departing the field. Alright, so we're doing good on our climb here. Let's go ahead and just take a quick peek at what we look like here. can see we got our time started as well, so we did a good job of doing that. That's something normally that the chronometer is normally something I don't get, but we got it done. Now let's kind of be good stewards and do our after takeoff checklist here. Let me just make sure I did turn those lights off. Yep, everything is off up there. And we have the strobe and beacon on and the logo light on, which is a good thing. Alright, let's see. Checklist. Alright, after takeoff, landing gear and flaps are up. So with that being said, not much to do to that checklist, of course. And then that'll be the descent, so we don't even need to stay on checklist. We can actually either just keep it in the nav. I'm having to click this twice here. Okay, maybe we need to click off on something else first. Let's go back to engine. There we go. Now let's see if we can... It used to let me put it in the nav section there, but it's not letting me do it anymore, so that's fine. So we'll just keep it on the status page there. And essentially the nav page would just reduplicate this page. You can look down here and see the same thing. Alright, we're continuing to climb. We are past 18,000 feet mark, so we could go ahead and go into the standard range, which redundant over here once I do that. And let's get this guy's range here going. There we go, so the aircraft is on track. 20,000 feet and climbing up to flight level 390. Let's go ahead and take a look at our plane's plan here. So we'll be at flight level 390 for quite some time. We won't start crossing any other waypoint until we get to Absen, which is quite a ways away. We definitely got some cruising here to do. Again, flying time's about 1 hour and 46 minutes today, if you will. So we're doing good there. And we can come in the back now and definitely check out, see what some passengers that are the freight crew, I guess, are back here seeing, since this is not a passenger aircraft. This is back in the cabin. You can see we're sitting on the left side of the aircraft, and there's not many other seats for the rest of the crew here. But they have a few. We can come to this side here and just take a quick peek. Aircraft's so big, there's no way we're going to get any views of the engine, of course. You can see that's the left side. That's the seat over there where we were just sitting in, from that point of view, if you will. And of course, here's more seats in the cockpit area. It's got a few extra seats here. 2 in the back, jump seats behind the captain and the first officer. So doing good, doesn't look to be any ATC. Guess we can get some jams going. Make things a little interesting here. All right. Cruising right along. That's one thing about these big boys. Once you get it up and get it on autopilot, it's pretty much like a Cadillac. And on the fantastic scope, there still proves to be nobody in sight. As far as air traffic control is concerned. Now let me just show you a few things regarding that taxi that I wanted to explained to you as far as these aircraft, they cannot taxi on all taxiways. Okay, so this is the charts that I use, obviously, from Navigraph, and this is the A330 and Boeing 747-800 taxi charts. This is where we were parked at 7 Alpha. We pushed back with our nose basically facing to the north, and you know, that's to the west, so this is the east side of the field. And as you can see here, the approved taxi route, preferred taxi route for aircrafts this large are all in the green. So we essentially took off from runway 25 left here and not 25 right, which is the preferred leaving from this ramp. And you could also see that here in terms of the notes down here. As far as what we do, you have preferred taxi route, and there's approved taxi on these runways by leaving those markings. And then you could also read here some of the departure runways. Let's see here, where was that language at? You can see here, arrival and departure runways, 25 left, but not 25 right. And this is for the A330, is going to differ, but so you can also see that the departure runway is, I wonder why this is saying is 25 right over here. Of course, that's with an 8, and they only want you to depart on 25 right when trying to find the language here. There's some language on here that I think I read the other day that oh yeah, runway 25 right available for departures of Boeing 747-8 aircraft under the following circumstances: over ocean ops when runway 07 right 25 left is closed, which is not, where there are no aircraft on taxiway Bravo H for. So the preferred runway is actually 25 left, and with certain circumstances. Everything in red, you can't taxi here. Aircraft does not meet the group which we're in, and everything in orange, or it has these numbers, you can read the extra information down here. So just keep that in mind when you decide to fly these aircraft, especially if you're doing it full realism, that some of these airports, most of the airports, are going to have a chart like that that are accustomed to having aircraft of this size land there, so that they can kind of, so to speak, add to the NOTAMs, if you will. For example, another thing on there was where people were misconfusing certain taxiways, where they usually had a behavior of merging onto one taxiway from another because they were so close. So those charts are pretty good for if you're trying to keep the immersion up and you want to see what's going on in each field and what you're supposed to do. That's the charts you read. Now, do we always use them? No, including myself, I don't. Especially if it's something like this where there's no air traffic control, then you can kind of make it your sim world. So there you go. We are at 32.1, so not less than 7,000 to go at this point to get to our cruising altitude. All right, lights off. Everything is good. Life is good here. Make sure we got the transponder on, which we did. So we did a lot in a short amount of time. One thing we can work off, obviously, we came off that field, and on our initial climb with this one, keep that nose down when we're manually flying it until it picks up that speed, and then go from there. About 2,000 to go. About 2,000 to go. Less than, or I'm sorry, not 2,000. I don't know why I'm thinking flight level 360 is 390, so about 5,500 to go at this point. Alright, we've been cruising for some time now, and it is just about time to start descent here into the Denver area. We still are on the VATSIM network with no ATC, but you know us, we are going to do what we came to do. Let's go ahead and take a look here at our, you see here we got top of descent about 13 nautical miles, so we need to go ahead and get the information switched up on the MCP here. So let's go ahead and start bringing this down. All right, we'll stop there at 15,000 feet. All right, so let's go ahead and just take a quick peek. Actually, we'll start the descent. Let's make sure we start this top of descent appropriately. We're just about on it. So we got about 4 nautical miles. Till we start descending in the area. All right, you can see here now that the aircraft has started its descent. So let's go ahead and bring this in. Okay, so what you can see here, we are going to be coming in from bump as our transition onto this waypoint, and move that. My beard was scratching the microphone. And coming in bump, bowl all the way over to BGDEE, and then we're going to transition to Telluride, that must be Telluride, to Epic, onto Cliff, and then back around. We're going to be more than likely landing on 16 right. 16 right, just because of where the cargo ramp is at, and the winds are out of the south, of course. We're gonna go ahead and check that right now. All right, current time right now, the winds are definitely out of the south at 180 knots. Let's just refresh that just in case. 180 degrees at 16 knots, and they're gusting 27, so it's thought to make for an interesting landing. Altimeter is 3015 with a Celsius temperature of 23 degrees, which is about ironic. That's the same degrees it was Celsius when we left LA. So we are on our way down. Let's also take a look at what our arrival is going to look like into the area as far as once we get to the ramp. And go to airport information here. So if we come here on 16 right, we can either probably end up coming here to this Whiskey Bravo, take this and double back on Foxtrot, come up here to Zulu, and here's pretty much the cargo area over here, the north side, the northeast side of the field. So that's where we're going to make concessions to land on. But right now I'm just going to check the bottom altitude on the descent. Okay, bottom altitude, I wasn't far off, is going to be 11,000. Trying to make sure my there we go, fix my point of view there. Okay, so we said 11,000. All right, 11,000, and that runway is more than long enough, so we'll go ahead and go for a auto brake 2. Yeah, because I don't want to go too aggressive. If we get it right, we won't need to be that aggressive. And actually, we're going to do auto brake 3, simply because those winds are gusting, and we're not going to land at the full flaps just because there's no need for us to. Alright, let's come over here and take a look. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Going to check something here. Okay, we're on a straight path. Let's go ahead and do a hold, and on the as far as the heading, now let's look over here, departure and arrival, just to see if we can pick our runway now. ILS 16 right, and ILS 16 right, or it's saying from Cliff. We can do the R16 Zulu. Which I believe this is what we're going to do. Let's go ahead and execute that. We'll go check the legs now. So after Rodville, yep, that's what we need is Cliff. So we can go ahead and just hit Cliff. Execute that. Let's make sure where we're going direct to, which is Ski. And that's it. So now we can go right back to LNAV. And now, if you take a look here, we've got a full turn coming around about as she comes, and then it'll bring us right back into the runway. Let's see if we can get a little bit better of a, oh, we can't until we get there. So now we have the aircraft all set up to follow those parameters. Let's also take a look now and just make sure that Cliff, 11,000, 10,000, 8,600, 83 above. Let's see, now let's check the approach just to make sure those are accurate. 16 right, we said we're doing that radio navigation Zulu. see us rocking around there as well. That's not going good. We're getting a little bit of chop here. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys something. So normally, if we were doing the ILS, we would come in, you know, at one of these points a little further out. But here's Jetson, which is the last waypoint. So if we go to our ILS 16 right Zulu, you can see we're going to make a pretty shallow turn. And then boom, be right there. So after we get to cliff, it's mandatory that we really start slowing it down. And once we start doing this turn here, we need to make sure once we get to Jetson that we are at 7,000. So we'll make sure that the aircraft has that all in store. Let's also double check our speeds. So see, it says Jetson, but we don't want Jetson after that. After Jetson, we want the field. Actually, what we can do is just click this Jetson. And then execute that. Now we got it all into place to where it's going to be a seemingly pretty decent landing. Once we get a little closer, we'll be able to take a look at that. And we also need to bring this down to 7,000 because that's the bottom altitude that we need. Again, we'd be a little bit more pressed for making sure we're hitting everything correctly. All right. So you're going to see this fluctuating because the aircraft knew it had to meet an altitude constraint there. Okay, let's go ahead and shut the tunes off. All right, tunage has been shut off. And let's keep her going. So we get a little closer, I'll give you guys flight controls view. In the meantime, perhaps we'll do our call out to the VATSIM network. Alright, so we are direct Telluride. Got about 7.2 nautical miles to get to Telluride. For traffic, Giant 318 Heavy descending via the Ski 2. Currently direct Telluride with 5.8 nautical miles to go. Expecting full stop runway 16 right for Denver traffic. Alright, so we made our announcement. So we are doing what we need to do. Alright, let's go ahead and look for this range here. Now you can get a little bit better idea of what we need to do here. Okay, and we said the altimeter was 3015, so let's go ahead and get that going. Alright, let's make sure it did it over here as well. Which it did. Let's see, FMC message, auto brakes 3. Drag required. Let's see where we're at. We got to get down to 250, so let's go ahead and help it with some drag. Here shortly we'll get those lights on. All right. So that's all taken care of. Now let's come down here and see exactly. Let's get rid of that message. Of course, again, winds are gusting at 27, no lower than 16 knots. So let's look at our initial ref. And we'll do flaps. We'll do 158. Of course, we got the ILS already programmed there, and then all that good stuff. Glide slope is on. Now, once we get direct cliff, we can go ahead and do what we need to do in terms of getting our approach on. Remember, at cliff, we should be at 15,000. Now, right now, we are definitely above ground level, 10,000 feet above the ground. So we're going to go ahead and play it safe and turn on our landing lights. That's where you got to know your MSL and AGL. All right. Okay, we're going to go ahead and make one concession of flaps. So we can kind of keep that nose down. We're just going to do level 1. To help us balance that nose, because it is very bouncy here, of course. So, 16 knots. Let's look at our VREF. So we're going to be coming in pretty hot. Flap speed, or the VREF is 158. So our approach speed is going to be something crazy, like 166 or more. We'll play it by ear. Let's help with a little drag here. And also, in the meantime, let me look and see exactly. Okay, 10,000. Just giving me a reminder to take that off, so I don't need to look there. Let's look at our speeds. 210, 210. Jab roll 195. Jetson's going to be at 175. We're going to make that change here in a second. Now, there's a way here. You can't just click speed on this. You have to actually, in order to get this to work, you got to push this. Then you get speed. Then you can come over here. Well, then after that, you got to click this vertical speed. And then now you can click this on the speed. So that's definitely somewhat, so to speak, a little glitch in the system, if you will. And see, we're going to be here at cliff at 11,000. But I'm just going to keep the descent going. Alright. And now we'll go ahead and get some serious speed bled down, because we're way above where we need to be. We're going to go ahead and go to the next stage of flaps. Bring that out to flaps 5. We already have our landing lights on here, of course. Continuing to bleed that speed. Alright, let me go ahead and get you guys some flight controls on before I forget. Okay, there we go. Flight controls are back on. Okay, that's just an audible tone to let me know that we had achieved the speed that we were looking for. Now we're going to go ahead and break that even down even further to 190. We can also go into the approach mode here. That way it captures the localizer and the glide slope, of course. Okay, so now what you're going to notice is we need to slow way down. And we got the localizer, of course. We're below the glide slope, so that's good. So I can slow this down, because we're going to catch the glide slope anyway. But we most certainly need to start slowing the aircraft down. So let's go ahead and bring that down pretty much to our approach speed. It's going to take probably that long. We're going to drop the gear here in a second. Making sure it's following that localizer there. Alright, we're going to go ahead and drop the gear down. And alright. We're going flaps there. You can see that nose coming up to that speed. Alright, and as you can see here, we're getting ready to make this happen. So I'm going to go ahead and take off the autopilot. And the speed, of course, it's my aircraft. Alright, coming down on the speed, we got the gear down, 3 green, flaps are set to where they need to be set. Looks like we overshot a little bit. By a large amount.
1,000.
But I think we can clean it up. And we're just way too high, so let's just hand fly it around. Let's see what that says over here. Auto throttle disconnected. Of course it is. We're just going to do a right pattern here. Again, good thing we're not on... I'm going to lift the gear up. Let's see here. Yeah, we better lift the gear up for sure. We're going to have to definitely leave the flaps where they're at, though. And again, normally we would just go ahead and make an announcement, but we're not going to do that. We're going to stay about this high above the ground. That RNAV is probably my fault. It just came really quick. Keep our speed right about here. It's okay to keep the speed here. I got the throttles pretty high, just because we got a lot of drag coming up. Getting about 180. I'll pull back a little bit. Okay. All right, just a little bit longer and we'll go ahead and make our turn. To make our turn, I guess we'll make an announcement. Yes, altitude alert, we know. Bird is doing fine here. We're keeping about 170 on the speed here. Keeping altitude about 7,000. Hope it knows that we know. Alright, so I'm going to preset our turn up. It's a little trick you can use. I can never get this thing to stay. Just going to preset our turn up here. Make sure we do a right turn from the field. Alright, so let's go ahead and start that right turn. Keep our speed about 180. Who knew we were going to hand fly this big beast today? Drop some speed here. We're picking up a little bit too much speed. And we're just trying to keep our altitude right where she's at. Alright, we're just going to fly this for about a minute or so. This heading. Just enough for me to get the right turn trick into play. Okay, that's in play. That looks good. Let's go ahead and make concession and do our right turn here. Trying to keep our altitude right where we need to. Got to trim the aircraft when you make these turns. You can see we were on our way kind of to the missed approach area. Now once we make our turn here and we're complete with it, we should have the field to where we could just visually take her on in. Let's get a look. Over here to the first officer side. Also, too, we can come over here and you can see the runway is right here, so we're pretty much parallel to it. We need to bank over slightly. All hand flying here, folks. Like I said, the whole missed approach was basically my fault. So we got to own up to it. Alright, altitude is looking good. We got a slight climb. Let's do a little bit on the pitch there. Speed is good. See if we can get that visual. Okay, so here's the field here. We're just going to come around and land on the appropriate runway, of course. Alright, let's see what we're looking like here. So, right, we want to kind of keep it straight here. We'll take a risk and come down here real quick. And let's see. In. All right. Okay, as you see, there's Jetson, and that's all we wanted to do is give ourselves a little mark where we needed to be. In Jetson, we need to be at 7,000. So we're not doing too bad. Just going to manually bring it in. So we'll just fly this course heading here. Denver traffic, Giant 318 downwind at runway 16 right, expecting full stop, Denver traffic. Alright, so we're going to get just a little bit north, if you will, of Jetson. Then we'll make our turn and we'll get our gear back down as we're making the turn. Everything is looking good. Go down here and pull my chart up for the runway. All right, 16 right. Okay, we're going to start making our turn here. Nice and controlled turn. Okay, we got somebody coming in 17, right? Speed still looking good. Just drop a little bit on the pitch. Continue to make that turn. Alright, ILS data is coming back available now. Not that we're flying the ILS. All right, let's go ahead and drop that gear. All right, let's check the first officer side right now. All right, and we can actually see the runway. Go ahead and start that turn. Let's jump back over to the first officer, or the captain side. All right. We'll be coming around the mountain as we come. Let's pull back on that speed. All right, we are on the glide path.
$1,000.
Super floaty here. $500, $400, $300, $200, $100, $50, $40, $30, $20, $10. All right, we buttered it. Reverse free. Brakes are on. All right, folks. Welcome it in to Denver International Airport. All right. Don't know why I keep getting that. We are on Delta 5, short of Delta. Delta 5, short of Delta. And let's see where that's going to take us. Delta 5, short of Delta. We could take Delta 5 actually to Whiskey Bravo if we wanted to. Denver traffic, Giant 318 clear, runway 16 right on Delta 5, taxiing into Whiskey Bravo to the cargo ramp for Delta traffic, or Denver traffic. Alright, So we made it in, which also means we need to turn on our APU. We may have had a rough approach, but we surely had a nice butter landing. And that's the good thing about, you know, learning how to fly this large aircraft. By hand, it's going to give you some benefits. So we're going to come all the way down to Whiskey Bravo, then we're going to get back on the Foxtrot so we can go up to the Zulu cargo ramp. So we got a little bit of a taxi here. Hopefully we'll be able to get some replays in. I don't think you guys need to see that anymore. All right. Just going to make a nice little soft left here. All right, no big deal. We got disconnected from the network. It's not really a huge thing. Must be an internet thing. Which is another reason why I don't stream. Internet here is so unstable, it just does that. They started saying it was something like my network driver and stuff like that from Windows 10's update, but all of my systems in the house are doing it, so it's not making enough sense to me. Alright, so we're going to look for Foxtrot, and then we're going to take that up to Zulu. I could go all the way up to cross the ramp, but I'm not going to. Let's see what we got here. Okay, this is Foxtrot here. So we'll go ahead and make our turn. Keeping in mind the lesson we had about 747s. I haven't even double checked if this is an appropriate taxiway, but you know what? Because of the internet right now, I just lost my functionality to Navigraph, so it's okay. We'll just assume it is. Now we should be taking this all the way up to Zulu. Alright, got about an 11. And let's see, those generators are available. We need the taxi light, but we don't need this one. Turn those runway turnoff lights off. So, even though we didn't fly online, it turned out to be quite an eventful approach. See, taxiing right at 21, no big deal. Delta November. This should be us right here. Yep, this is Zulu. Look at this guy. Yeah, you better scoot across with us coming down the way. We don't have time for your games, eh? We're gonna try on the park this thing on the other side of this. I've never actually parked this aircraft here at this cargo ramp, so I can see there looks like it would be an area, very small area. Let's see what's on this other side here. Either way, we're going to park on this other side. Let's just make sure we get our wingspan accounted for. Slow her down a little bit. And of course, let's see here. We got our available generators on, so once we pull up to the gate, we can just go ahead and shut her down. I said gate, more like as soon as we pull up to the location there. Now, I am going to park over there, but I'm not going to make this first turn just because of our wingspan. Doesn't feel as if it's appropriate, so we're going to make the next turn into this ramp area. I see the FedEx truck over there, so we'll see what we're looking at as far as the parking spots in here. Definitely enough room here to make the swing. We'll go for this little second spot right up here. I don't think we're going to have any marshallers, of course. See, what does that spot over there say? I have no clue, but it's looking like us all day long. Two, here we come. I have no marshaller, so we can only assume that's the spot. Parking brake is set. And that means we can go ahead and shut that all the way down. The APU on already. And welcome it in to Denver, folks. Turn all of our fuel pumps off, of course. And we don't have any ground power here just right away, so let's go ahead and keep that APU running. And let's go out, take a look, and see how we did. Hey, we got it on the line. We did great. We pulled it up a little bit more, but we got it right on the line as we should have without going out. I don't know why it looks like we didn't put our slats all the way back up, which I didn't. I just did them basically halfway, so that was my fault. But they're going to come up now. We'll get them all the way up, and then we will conduct a landing replay.
1,000. $500, $400, $300, $200, $100, $50, $40, $30, $20, $10.
Knots.